the fantasy that they live under is that they can continue to print money to cover deficits and that there won't be any impact of that printing. And they concede that inflation is a potential risk, but they also believe that they can control that inflation through taxation and government policies. And anybody who believes the government can control anything effectively or knows how and when to do the right thing is delusional, in my view. The first experiment with MMT was 1921 through 23, and it was called chartalism back then. And there was a guy named Knapp who came up with the notion that the government could never run out of money, and that all money was a creation of the government, not a creation of the marketplace, which was just totally false. And it ended up with hyperinflation in Weimar Germany. It's funny because when I asked her, Stephanie, about that on Twitter, I got blocked.
Yeah, I don't know if I've
not how that shit happens, right?
Yeah. Warren Moser blocked me, which is weird because I've had him on my show. And it was courteous. I don't even know. Sometimes there's lists that go around and people just automatically defer to someone else's judgment, block these accounts.
Yeah, when I went after her, suddenly I had all of MMT World coming after me, and I just had a total blockathon. I X'd out hundreds of people within days.
Yeah, well, so Lawrence, you make a good point there too. I agree. I've seen that too, where it's again, Stephanie Kellett, she's not dumb, right? So in her book, if people just say money printer go burr, you MMTers, you just think print money, and the MMTers can get righteously indignant and say, no, Stephanie says several times in her book, that there's real resource constraints, and if the government runs the printing press too much, then that will make prices right. And yes, she does say that, but again, there's never a time when they say the government should stop printing. There's clips of her on CNBC.
There's no mechanism for it. Yeah, she said multiple times, she's like cash cars. She said we can never run out of money. We've got an unlimited amount of money, just like there's an unlimited amount of cash in the Federal Reserve. I mean, she is just an outright, complete, and utter fraud. I mean, she's a liar, and she's full of shit, and she knows she's full of shit, but she's kissing up to the state. And she went to that great college, Stony Brook, and got a PhD there. And I mean, she's just dumb as fuck. I mean, it just she is.
Yeah.
I mean,
your statements are more aggressive than mine.
Bob.
Yeah,
Larry, tell us like it is.
No, it's true. I mean, I read her book. I mean, it was such trash. I just couldn't believe anybody reads and believes that crap. I was like, what the fuck, lady? This makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, it was just horrible. I mean, I had to read it because I was writing mine and I had to cover MMT. So I had to sit down and actually read the whole goddamn book, which I never would have done otherwise. And I was just appalled at what I read. I mean, it's just a piece of shit. Why anyone buys it, I just don't understand.
I don't know if I'm old enough for this podcast.
Yeah. You may not, Bob. You may not be cranky enough. I mean,
you become the cranky old man, Bob.
I got the corner on.
Yeah, we should have warned you about when Larry gets rolling.
Yeah, our last guest might have surpassed me. We had a guy on who's a good friend of ours, George Bodine, and he's probably right there with me. But Bob and Gary are much more polite than I am.
I think that sets a scale for us.
Yeah, I'm kind of at that point where I'm just so pissed off, and I got nothing to lose. I just don't give a fuck, and so. I'm just going to kind of call them as I see them.
Well, and I think that's what I think I think that's a really sage point, because I think at some point you just had enough, right? And so we're well in our well over 60 years old, and I know you're not there yet, even close, Bob, but there's a point at which you just say, I'm just so tired of this crap and this bullshit. And you also realize you have a clock yourself, you want to see stuff righted before you pass on, right? Yeah. And so it gets frustrating. And I think kind of back to that whole thing of how the different schools of thought, the way I look at it, and correct me if you feel differently, Bob, but I think we're really talking about a whole bunch of schools of thought that think an economy can be managed, that a central authority can somehow pull the levers and make it all right, versus the Austrian school saying, no, you don't want to screw with it. Let it run its course, and it will be much better off than if you tried to play with it.
Yeah, I think that for sure that's true. And then I got more of a glimpse in the psychology and understand how it works when I went to NYU to get my degree. There were some of the professors there. So at the time I went, it was probably a top 15 school. economics program in the world. So it was a pretty rigorous program. They had an Austrian fellowship. That's why I went there, because it was like I got the mainstream education, but my dissertation could be Austrian, and they supported me. So those guys were sharp. They were very good at math and everything, but they didn't, in my view, they didn't really understand how the economy worked. And then also, it wasn't just a side point because they were so intelligent, or because Paul Krugman is so smart. That's why he thinks, oh, I have the ability, I could run things better than what these clowns are doing. You know what I mean? So this arrogance kind of fuels it.